right. Hey, friends. My name's Trey Brinson. Again, thank you for joining the Everyone Everywhere podcast alongside Tim Sexton. And we have a guest with us today that I'm super excited about, and that is Jacob Giles. So, Jacob, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
You took the long drive from Warner Robins, Georgia.
Did. It was an easy drive, though. It's kind of a straight shot, so.
Yeah, listen, there's not too much people like about driving through McDonough. So when you drive to it, it's not as bad as driving through it.
Yeah, that's true. All the traffic starts right here.
Yeah. Came from the south. That's how much
right.
easier.
Yeah,
right.
We are hated around the state because of our interstate.
Around the country,
That's
actually.
right, around the country, everywhere you go. But Jacob, man, thank you for being with us. I just wanted to start off by you introducing yourself. Our listeners probably don't know you, but they're going to get to know you because we're partnering with you in something that we'll talk about in a moment. But introduce yourself, your family. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Jacob Giles. I've got a wife named Mackenzie. We've been married for around 6 years. We met in college. I played baseball at South Georgia State College in Douglas, Georgia, and she is from like 20 minutes from there, was commuting. So we met. And very quickly got engaged and married, and been doing ministry full time for the last 7-8 years. And I've been in Pensacola, Florida for the last 6. Just moved back in February. I'm at Second Baptist Church, and I'm currently a church planter in residence. And we have a 2-year-old son named Nicholas, and then my wife is currently, at the time we're recording this, 37 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
We are right there, about to welcome our second son into the world. So we're super excited. And, that's my family. Love ministry, love the church, have served in a lot of different roles. So I did college ministry, young adult ministry for a while, did small group ministry, have done campus ministry. So have had a lot of unique opportunities in that. So yeah.
So has Mackenzie, did she carry full term with the others?
So she was 39 and 1 day the last. So
she's been early.
Early, yeah, yeah. So and she's been telling me, she's like, I'm extra uncomfortable right now. I'm like, okay, well, if we have our bags packed, let's be ready.
Well,
so
make sure you finish the podcast.
Yes, I've got my phone. My phone rings and I look at it. That's why. But yeah,
that's right.
It's good.
Well, man, one, I know that you're down at Second Baptist Church in Warner Robins, Georgia, with Pastor Jim Purdue.
Yeah,
Jim's a dear friend of mine. He was actually my wife's youth pastor. Did you know that?
I did. I think you told me that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So she says that he was the most legalistic youth pastor she's ever had.
Oh my, that's funny.
But Jim would say that. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
So he made them wear like trash bags on youth retreats because he wanted to make sure every part of their body was covered.
That's great.
You know anything about that, Tim?
No comment. No comment.
But we love Second Baptist. They so when I came to Christ at a church that's no longer in Warner Robins, but I was kind of introduced to the wrath of God. And just God's hand of retribution is just waiting to come down on you. You mess up, and He's going to get you. And that's how I felt.
Yep.
But one thing that Second Baptist taught me through my time there is what the love of God looked like.
Yeah.
And now there's both are true, but it was overwhelming when I learned about the love of God. And man, the love of God will compel you to do a lot of things.
Absolutely, that's my story too. Growing up in church. Really just fearing God. Everything I did fear was the motivation. And then went through a season where He, showed me His love and grace. I didn't believe God loved me before that, really, because I just couldn't measure up. But man, that was a hard but beautiful time to experience.
You just see life change. You start to do things because you're motivated differently. And one of the things I've learned through being motivated like that is there's nothing that God can ask me to do that maybe I'm unwilling to do. Your yes kind of stays on the table a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about church planting because I know you're going to go plant a church, and you were residing in Pensacola, Florida, at the beautiful sandy beaches of Florida, and you're going to Boston, of all places. So people are going to ask you that, like, why would you leave the beach to go to Boston?
That's right.
Wardrobe
so be ready for that.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about church planting. I think it's Isaiah 26:8 that says, "Yes, Lord, in the way of your judgments we wait for you. Your name, your renounce, the desire of our heart." And what I love about that passage is Isaiah wasn't asked anything. He just gave his answer to God, and it's yes. This is kind of an open-handed. And to go church plant, you kind of have to live that way. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it really for us, our story goes all the way back to when we were engaged. So like when we were engaged, my wife and I were doing kind of a little bit of long distance, and she would come. I was serving at a church. I was actually serving at Second at the time. They were kind of in a youth pastor transition, didn't have a youth pastor, and Kinsey and I had just got engaged, and I had talked to Jim, and I was like, I said, I really feel like the Lord's telling me to give up baseball and step into ministry. I had known I was called to ministry. I had kind of experienced that call when I was 13. Kind of told God, hey, I'm going to do my own thing. And God really got a hold of me while I was playing baseball and was like, this isn't what I have for you. So Jim kind of talked with me through that as I was navigating that, and just kind of subtly encouraged me. Like he knew change was coming in their staff, and it was like, just like, hey man, just follow God. Like, you know, and eventually got to the point where he was like, hey, this change is happening. We'd love for you to step in. And so I was serving there. My wife would travel on the weekends and kind of do ministry with me. And then she'd go back home. And I just remember one time we were sitting down and we were kind of just talking about the reality of ministry. And I remember telling Mackenzie, hey, I hope you know, like, a part of like marrying me and being a part of ministry means like whatever God calls us to do, like I want our family to go and do. I was like, and I use this like phrase. I said, if God calls us to China, like we're going to go. And immediately my wife, like tears well in her eyes and she starts like crying. And I'm immediately going, oh no, like this is over. Like I messed up. Like I was like, what's happening? And she told me, she was like, you know, Jacob, I don't know if I feel called to go to China. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, I use these words. I said, I'm just saying I want us to always be willing and then obedient to do whatever God calls us to do. And she was like, absolutely, like, I want to be that. And so we were serving in Pensacola. And honestly, if I could describe our life in Pensacola, I would say we were content. I was a campus pastor. We had actually just bought a house that, like, my wife and I said, hey, we're going to raise our kids in this house. We loved the beach. Like, we would spend, they always say, like, when you move to the beach, you never go to the beach. That was not true for us. Like, we would go all the time. Pensacola has a lot to do outside of the beach too. And I don't know, we really liked where we were. We had friends. We were enjoying ministry. We were comfortable. And in the beginning of 2024, we began to kind of pray through, and we wanted some clarity about our future, and had some questions about some things that were coming up. And so we began to kind of pray through it. And our prayer to God was, God, we want to make sure we're not settling for comfort instead of your calling. Like we want to make sure, like, we're exactly where you want us to be. And honestly, we began that season of praying, asking God to just give us direction. And we thought he would just confirm, like, hey, you're right where you're supposed to be. That's honestly what we thought going into it. And very quickly, God began to, like, shake our hearts up a little bit. And it was, I mean, like February, it took like a month before Kinsey and I were like, what's happening? Like, God's unsettling us. Like, there's something going on. And we kind of just started, like, really praying through, like, what do you have for us? But like church planning had never really been, it had never really been on my radar. I know church planners, love church planners. I've always said I have a heart for America. Like, I have a heart for the American church. I have a heart for this country and seeing this country, you know, turn back to God. And like, I have a big heart for that. But like church planning, I had just always thought, you know, I'll go be a pastor, and then one day I'll be a lead pastor, and you know, that's what I was going to be. But I always loved church planning. But over the course of the summer of that year, I had a couple people come up to me, actually 3 people in the span of about 6 weeks. And all 3 of them asked me about church planning. Like, hey, have you ever considered church planning? Have you ever thought about church planning? We think you would do great at church planning. And they all asked me about a specific area. I know we may talk about this in a little bit, but they had asked me, have you ever thought about church planning in Boston? And there's some reasons for that. I know we'll probably touch on that later. And so the first person asked me, and I told my wife, and she laughed, and we both were kind of like, yeah, that would never happen. The second person asked me, and I was like, I'm really interested. In fact, I actually tell people during that conversation, I almost felt like it was almost like some holy heartburn. Like I started to feel something like burning inside of me, and I was like, this excites me. Like I think I would love to do this. um, and I actually told that person, hey, if you ever go do that, I'll go with you. But like, I don't know if I'll do it on my own. And then the third person that asked me, I said, okay, you're the third person that asked me, like, I'm interested. And so we began having conversations. And so that's what kind of led us to church planning. Honestly, it was other people seeing like, hey, we feel like you could be a church planner, that you could do this. And then through prayer, like really feeling like, man, we could go help meet a need that's there. And kind of the love that we have for the church as a whole translated into to being a part of it in this way. And so, yeah, that's kind of what led us there. Honestly, it wasn't really something we sought out. It feels like it kind of sought us out. And I had somebody ask me one time when I told them that, they were like, how in the world does church planning seek you out? Like, that's not something that typically happens. But I think the Lord, I don't know, really worked to lead us in that direction. So, yeah.
So I have a similar story to yours. We were in college ministry in Valdosta, Georgia, and my wife was the assistant to our pastor at Cross Point Church. His name was David Rogers, and David one day asked me to go to lunch, and he said, man, you need to consider church planting. And I'm thinking at that time, the only church planter I knew was like Darren Patrick. You remember Darren Patrick, late Darren Patrick? And I didn't shop at Buckle. Like, I didn't have those trendy glasses. Like, nothing about me said church planter. And really it wasn't as popular then. I don't want to say popular, because church planting's always been around, but it wasn't something I aspired to do.
Right.
So I went to an exponential conference. Have you done that in Orlando?
I'm familiar with that.
And man, you can't leave that thing without surrendering. So they said to go put a pin on a map. That's where you're going to plant a church. And I felt like I needed to put a pin somewhere. So I put it in Raleigh, Durham. And I came back, and I was going to plant a church in Atlanta, and we just could not settle. And we ended up planting in Raleigh, Durham. Yeah. So the Lord, he won.
That's cool.
Hey, let me ask y'all both a question. So I'm thinking about the people in our church that are listening to this podcast that maybe they come from, it's not a Baptist background.
Yeah.
Like I live a little over 4 miles from this campus. We pass 14 churches on the way to this office. So if somebody were to ask you, like, why do we need more? I know, where this is. Why do we need more churches in the Bible Belt? Now, we do, but how would you answer that?
I would say that churches are just like people. They have different personalities, and different personalities reach different people groups. So Eagles Landing can't be all things to all people. We're not going to reach everyone, and neither is Salem, and neither is Momentum or Glen Haven or any of the churches that are in our town. But there are people that new churches could potentially reach. I think another thing for me that I notice about church plants is when they come in, they have nobody. So they're extremely ambitious. And they come in with this excitement and this energy to see something happen, see people grow, see people come to know Christ. And what happens is it becomes like a healthy competition. Like we see their urgency, and the churches that are already in existence and established get a little bit more urgent. I'll say the final thing, and Jacob, I won't take anything away from you, but I'd say the final reason is because church plants, unlike established churches, tend to reach the lost. That's most of the people that join a church plant or come into the church plant are from the lost. And just like I do in the Bible Belt, man, we love just to transfer churches, and it never really becomes a family. We just hop and jump. Something offends us when we go, whatever the case may be. And man, church plants don't have that. They don't have that history. So they're just there to reach people who don't know Jesus, and they're very guarded. But anything you want to add to that? Or
I would just say, I think the Great Commission is to go, and one of the greatest ways we can go is by sending people. And I think even if you were to, I would be curious, I don't know the math on this, but even if you were to take the population of the area and put them in the churches would probably still be overflowing. So there's always a need.
Still don't have enough.
That's what I think. I was always talking through the church planting process with people. They were like, honestly, church plant anywhere, because everywhere needs the gospel, and any area could benefit from new church. That you mentioned that. I think it's something that NAM says, North American Mission Board. They're like, new churches reach new people. Like it just happens that way sometimes. And so, So yeah, I think that would kind of be why I would say, is, man, there's such a need for the gospel in our country today, and I would hope we could see in my lifetime a resurgence back to church, and that's going to require more churches. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I obviously asked that question because you want this to be a sending church,
Sure.
and the future of this church is to be a church planting church. So yeah, it's good stuff.
good.
Yeah, and a lot of people have a sour view of growth because the church for so long just pushed numbers and pushed numbers and pushed numbers, and they made converts well, they didn't make disciples well. But I think growing churches tend to be the going churches. They're the ones that send best, and I think that's why we push growth too, is because we want to see more people go out and take the gospel. But what you've worked hard on is establishing a discipleship culture so that these people who get saved can grow as disciples of Christ so that they can be sent.
Yeah.
And it takes all of us to make that happen. But hey, to go back to Jacob for just a second, he is a home run type church planter, and he probably would be humble and not say that. But when I think of
That was
that,
a corny segue.
yeah, well, to be honest, what you don't know is what I was going to say is that I was looking for someone to do student ministry. And every time I called somebody, I was like, man, I need an up and rising star. I need someone that's a home run. Like, you got to have those types of hires in the church. And your name kept coming up. So Jacob and I actually had a phone introduction before, like a personal introduction, because I was trying to get him here to come and lead our students. And I learned through that he was actually in a prep process to become a pastor and was feeling called to do that. And lo and behold, God called you to church planting, and you're going to Boston.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Boston. Why Boston? What is it about that city that you love? And
Yeah, so I'm a big baseball fan. Obviously, played college baseball, and this is going to sound like a silly introduction, but ever since I was a little kid, I've always been a huge Boston Red Sox fan. So I grew up in Georgia. As a kid, went to Braves game. Wore Braves stuff. My family are Braves fans, but for whatever reason, I think it was in 2007. I think the first World Series that I ever really remember staying up and watching was '07, and that was the Red Sox won the World Series. Yeah. They had just broken the curse a few years earlier, and in '07 they had a guy on their team. I believe he was a rookie that year. His name was Dustin Pedroia, and I remember watching him. Yeah. I remember watching him and going, I want to play like him. Like he was undersized. He was super talented, but just played the game the right way, played hard, was gritty, like just had that mentality. Like you're not gonna beat me. And, I really liked him. And then I obviously fell in love with a guy named Big Papi, David Ortiz. And, so just fell in love with the Red Sox. And, from that, I learned a lot about like the way the Red Sox played really encapsulated like Boston culture. So it's like gritty. You're not going to tell us what to do. We're going to prove you wrong. Like just kind of that mentality. And I felt like as a player, like I was going to play that way. Like I'm going to prove you wrong. Like I'm going to play hard. And I love that. And so from my love of the Red Sox, around that same time, the Celtics Big Three had just started. So Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, and they won in '08. And so I had never really watched NBA until I started watching them. They won the NBA championship. And then a guy named Tom Brady was playing for the Patriots. And so it wasn't hard to root for him either.
We don't use his name.
Do I? Yeah.
we'll talk about
anyway. Yeah, I'll save that for
Thank you.
for another time. But and so I just fell in love with Boston sports and became a like diehard fan. And from that, ended up developing a love for the city. So in 2012, I believe it was it is funny. The flight to Boston was supposed to be our first flight. And you mentioned it to us before the podcast. It's supposed to be my first flight, but my flight to the Little League World Series ended up being my first flight instead of that. So my parents were kind of bummed because they didn't even get to be on my first flight with me. But I convinced my mom for her 50th birthday to spend in Boston going to a Red Sox game. Don't know how I convinced her. I think I told her something about they got good seafood or something up there. I was like, let's go to Boston 50th birthday. So we went. I got to go to Fenway Park. I got to see the city. and be in the city and love the city. I was like, man, I love this. And so from a distance, loved Boston. 2019, my wife and I actually got to go there together. We had just gotten married, and we worked with the church plant there and got to do ministry there, in Worcester. So it was like 50 minutes outside of Boston. And from then got to really see the spiritual climate of the Northeast, got to see, like a church planter, like really grinding it out in the city, and learned a little bit about the need for the city. And so, when people began to approach me and ask me, they immediately started asking me about Boston because they knew that I had a love for the city. And when I began to hear more of the need for the city, I think my heart began to kind of break for the city that I love, to know that there was such a need for the gospel. Literally have heard that, Boston's broken into neighborhoods. So there's, I believe, like over 20 neighborhoods. That it depends how you define them or break them out. But I believe it's told to me that there are still neighborhoods in Boston without gospel-centered churches, and every neighborhood is unique. They have tens of thousands of people in there. Some people don't really leave their neighborhood that much because they have everything they need in it. And so there are literally people in Boston who are not encountering the gospel at all in their life because there's no churches that are going and taking. And so hearing that about a city that I really care about, like really broke my heart. And to know that I could have the opportunity to help, and be a part of taking the gospel to those people, really excited me. But also in my ministry, my very first opportunity outside of youth ministry was young adult ministry. So I got to work with college students, and my wife and I still to this day say that was our favorite season of ministry. Like, we loved working with young adults. A lot of people get frustrated by them because, they can be a hard group to minister to, but we loved them. We felt energized by ministering to them. And Boston is very much a young adult centric city. And there are, I believe, in Greater Boston, over 250,000 college students in the city. In Greater Boston, I believe there's over 60 colleges. And so we have a heart for the city, but we also think Boston's very strategic. And if we get the chance to minister to young adults for 4 or 5 years and then send them out, like, they could literally be sent across the globe. I mean, we're talking about some of the highest levels of education in our country, Harvard, MIT, things like that. And so these people could be sent all over the globe. And if we can help them encounter the gospel and their life be changed, we really could impact the globe from Boston. And so, I think the heart for Boston really was kind of the push. But then as we kind of began to pray through and look at Boston from the lens of church planting, we really saw a very strategic opportunity in Boston. And so, that's kind of really what led us in that direction, and it makes us excited about it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You brought up something just a moment ago. You're going to actually be in South Boston.
Yes,
is that correct?
correct.
And South Boston, there's some things that they do and ways that they live and lifestyle rhythms that they have that remind you a little bit of your childhood.
Yeah.
For those who are listening, Jacob was actually on one of the three, I think, one of Robin's World Series teams.
Yep.
Pick on him, but they didn't win it.
No.
But it was still a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was.
Talk to us about that, and then how interesting it is to see things come full circle to where you're going to be planting.
Yeah. So, we went, I was part of the 2011 Little League World Series team that went to Williamsport to play in the Little League World Series. We were actually the first team to, the Southeastern Regional headquarters got moved to Warner Robins. And so, our regional championship game was played in Warner Robins, and we played in front of, I think it was like 11,000 fans in Warner Robins. So that was pretty cool. In the Little League World Series, we played against a team from Pennsylvania, and we played in front of, I believe it was 44,000 fans. And I think the capacity at Fenway Park is somewhere around 40,000. So I remember like hearing the broadcast, and they said that we played in front of more fans than could fit in front of in Fenway Park. Wow. And so, super like cool experience.
And you're like 12?
I was 12. Yeah.
So cool.
12. And so, it was a cool experience. Yeah. We didn't win it. We were 4th in the US and 8th in the world. But just a cool experience. Like, I still remember like being in the clubhouse playing, ping pong with some of the Japanese players, and like getting to meet some of the people from all across the world, and like to be able to share one thing in common, like baseball, and like be friends because of it. It was super cool experience. And yeah, and so in South Boston, when I was talking about which area, sorry, I think this is sliding down on me a little bit. When we talked about where to plant in Boston, I basically told him, I said, tell me where the need is. Like, I don't want, obviously the need's everywhere in Boston. Like, you could plant a church anywhere and there's a need, but I wanted to go somewhere that was really really desperate for a gospel centered church, and so they mentioned a couple areas to me. And so when we went in November for our first trip up there to kind of view the city and kind of assess through the North American Mission Board, they took us to a few of the neighborhoods. And when they were going through South Boston, I said, hey, if you were planting here, what is the first thing you would do? And the first thing out of their mouth was, well, if I was planting here, I would coach youth sports. And they were like, youth sports dominates this area. Like, people live and breathe sports. They'll do multiple practices a day. Like, their lives, if they have kids, will revolve around sports. And immediately I was like, that's it. Like, that's all you got to tell me. That's all I want to hear. Like, because I would love to do that anyway.
You speak that language.
I do. And they kind of mentioned a few things about South Boston. They're like, you got to be able to speak sports. Like, you got to be able to, South Boston's known to have, if there are any traditional Bostonians left, they can be found in South Boston. And so there's some traditional Bostonians. And so you got to be able to speak like the Red Sox, the Celtics, Patriots. I'm going to have to learn how to speak the Bruins. Like, I the Bruins are my hockey team, but being in the South, I don't know hockey super well. But you got to be able to speak that. And then there's a lot of young families there. And so, like, just they kept talking about, what it would take to be effective there and what kind of people you'd be trying to reach. And I was like, man, I feel like these experiences have kind of lended towards an opportunity to be able to connect with these people. And then obviously through that connection to be able to share the gospel with them. And so, yeah, it's kind of cool that like a Little League experience way back then can contribute towards effectiveness for the gospel now.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
Well, listen, most of the people that are going to be listening are learning about church planting, but they also are learning about you.
Yeah.
What is one thing you would ask them to be prayerful about other than Mackenzie and delivery?
Yeah.
What's one thing that you would?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good question. I would just say that we would just ask for continued prayers just to do exactly what the Lord would have us to do. And I would say if you want to pray for our family, pray for us as we adjust to a culture of connection that's very different. So like I've heard it described as in the South, everybody's like a peach, like very soft on the outside, very easy to get to know people on a surface level, but very hard to like get really deep with them. And then I can't remember exactly what the analogy was. I think it was a coconut, that people in the Northeast, they're hard to like initially befriend, but once you get to the inside, like they're an open book. And so it's a very different way of connecting and making friends. And for Kinsey and I, we want to go up there and connect and love on people and be able to build those friendships. And so I would say be praying for us as we enter into a new culture and a time of really starting over and having to make new friendships and connections and community. And so be praying for our family that way. But also, like, there's a lot of things that are still to be had. Like, we're going to go up there and do a residency through the North American Mission Board as we get settled. And so a lot of plans will be laid out and moved into as we get up there, and just pray that we'd be sensitive to the Lord's direction and be exactly where he wants us to be. Because I'm sure that we're going to go up there with ideas and plans of our own, and he's going to want to redirect and show us exactly where he wants us to, so that we'd be sensitive to that and follow that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, if you're in the South Atlanta area, Jacob will actually be preaching here in the month of July. You can check our website out and find out when that might be, but it'll be in July. Do you know that date?
I think it was the second to last Sunday in July, whatever Sunday that is. Yeah.
So we look forward to having you there. Our people get to know you a little bit better. Also, we're taking a mission trip for Eagles Landing members. That'll be going in August to Boston, and you will actually be moving in the same weekend that I think we're going to be there. So if you like to be a part of that, you can sign up for that too. But thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to the Everyone Everywhere podcast. Thank you, Jacob, for being on today, man. What a pleasure it is to know you better and to be partnered with you in ministry.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you.